Next item up is item 12, consideration of resolution, position of the Executive Director of the Highlands Council. Can I get a motion on that, please?
I'll offer the resolution.
Can I get a second? Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the floor. At this point in time, I'll open to the public, reminding the public that they have 3 minutes, and please be respectful of other members of the audience. Don't cut into their time. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, council members. My name is Julia Summers. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Highlands Coalition. Eileen. On behalf of the 67 affiliate members of the New Jersey Highlands Coalition and their many members, thank you. Thank you for your dedicated and focused work on behalf of this state and the 5.4 million people who depend on Highlands water. Thank you. New Jersey has rarely had a leader who has worked as hard as you, as intelligently or been as informed as you, as articulate as you. You know we have not agreed on a number of issues in the Highlands, but we are extremely distressed at the actions of the Christie administration being put into action by this council in replacing you. What an irony that just last week, New Jersey's Supreme Court firmly reminded the governor that he does not have the authority to interfere in agencies such as COA and the Highlands Council. But here he is doing exactly that, through heavy-handed meddling in the council's business. You must be painfully aware that you and the citizens of New Jersey are being punished for you being too good at your job. You have inspired and led a disciplined and effective staff who know that you have fought for them and their hard work at every turn. Elected officials from almost every town that has been going through conformance have come to almost every conformance meeting here at the council and roundly thanked you and recognized your efforts for helping them through their individualized conformance, which turned into a very positive experience for them. In fact, I remember Freeholder Walton at one of those meetings, being photographed. Are any of them here today? No. Although, a word to the press behind me, if asked why not to a person, they will say they either had to be elsewhere or felt it inappropriate to speak positively about Eileen when the governor has made it clear he wants her gone so he can reverse the successes she and her team have achieved. Trenton has been in touch, I assure you, and there is a lot of money on the line for some of these towns. I am told not to be naive, that this is the way business is done in Trenton, not only under his administration, but others. However, I would argue it hasn't been so blatant. You have been successfully moving conformance to the Highlands Regional Master Plan forward, helping municipalities understand the multiple benefits to them of conforming not only their preservation areas, but also their planning areas. And sadly, there lay your downfall. Who knew that success would be rewarded this way? A word to the council members, to each and every one of you, and an appeal. I'm sure most of you are very unhappy that this is happening today, but feel either that you have no choice but to go along, or that given the governor's desire to make this happen, it is inevitable, so there's no point in fighting it. Well, this is a shameful day, and I know that for most of you in your hearts, you know it. Nearly all of you have been extremely positive about Eileen's leadership and given her glowing reports. But you have depended on her too heavily, and now is the time to reacquaint yourselves with the Highlands Water Protection and Planning Act and the Regional Master Plan.
Thank you for your comments, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill WOlfe. I'm a resident in Hunterdon County, West Amwell Township. I was involved in the team that drafted the Highlands Act, and part of that act was laying out an institutional framework that looked at the powers of the governor, the powers of the council, the powers of the DEP, the relationship between the various parties. I'm not here today to talk about the executive director's position. I'm here to talk about how this decision is violative of the institutional structure of the Highlands Act and how it creates, regardless of the motivations, how it creates, given the press coverage and the way this thing is unwound, how it creates a serious problem with public perception and undermines the integrity of government and professionalism and the council's integrity, the council's independence, and the professional standards that will govern going forward if this should become the precedent for a director's removal. It's obvious we've got transparent politics operating here, and it seems obvious to me that the governor has reached in and affected the deliberations of the council and done so in a way that's masked, not transparent, and redolent of Soviet-style governance, which I think is an offense to everything that I stand for as a professional and tried to accomplish in my career, and I'm assuming yours as well. And last, I would request that the third whereas provision in the resolution, the fourth whereas, which cites section 5G of the Act, be amended to reflect the full statutory language, which is very important going forward, because the statute clearly says that the director, quote, and this is a citation from the Act, quote, shall be a person qualified by training and experience to perform the duties of the Act. That language is not there. Its failure to be there, I don't believe, is an accident. And I believe if you don't restate that language, you're opening the door to patronage and political appointments that undermine the integrity of the Act and the integrity of the council. Thank you.
My name is Wayne Najdu. I'm a resident of Independence Township, and I'd like to thank Eileen for her efforts and what she has done for the people and for you as in her service. I echo all of the feelings that people who spoke here before me certainly have done it much more elegant than I, but I want you to realize how much of an effort she has made, and she has suffered tremendous abuse from my township and the representatives of my township, and defended abuse directed to you people, and I have to thank her for that, her courage to do so. And I just think that this is a very large mistake on your behalf. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mimi Letts. I'm the former mayor of Parsippany and a former member of this council. I was fortunate to be on the council when Eileen Swan did a remarkable job of guiding a very diverse council through the process of completing the regional master plan. She and her terrific staff, who she developed and nurtured, always provided us with the information that we needed to make our decisions. We used to print out all those maps that used to be all over these walls, and was able to get us all the answers that we had to our questions. The fact that that council was able to compromise, to agree on a master plan, is truly remarkable. I can assure you that that council, all of us members, Kurt, Tracy, who were there, none of us agreed on every aspect of that plan. Nevertheless, we were able to come to an agreement on the essential purpose and the essence of that master plan, thanks to the guidance of Eileen. And when it was all said and done, believe it or not, we were able to shake hands on it all. And I have been terribly impressed by the number of towns, both in the preservation and the planning area, that have been coming before you to seek conformance to that plan. It's especially impressive when the planning areas come before you, because they don't have to. The reason that they're coming in is because of Eileen and her staff, and the time that they spend with these towns explaining what the master plan is all about, how the master plan can help them achieve their planning goals, and how that'll actually help them. One of the important things that Eileen, I know, stresses when she's out dealing with the planning area towns is to look for a designation of town centers. And I think that that's something that all of you would agree upon, because that provides an opportunity for towns to concentrate growth in the planning area of the Highlands, growth both in residential as well as commercial construction. And Eileen has always had a very balanced approach to protect the sensitive environmental assets of the Highlands, while also supporting important economic interests of the region. And she has been very sensitive to the issue of equity. That was always a concern of the council and of Eileen and her staff. And she always supported the efforts that the council made to ask and to get the legislature to help resolve that issue. We even had suggested in letters to the legislature that they enact a water fee that would have brought significant amounts of revenue that would have allowed us to compensate the landowners in the preservation area. So I think that Eileen really deserves our respect, our admiration, and she deserves to keep her job and to keep the efforts of this council moving forward the way that they have been for many years.
My name is Michael Keady, and I'm from Holland Township out in Hunterdon County, and I'm the chairman of the Environmental Commission in Holland Township and also the vice chair of the Planning Board. I just wanted to bring a bit more of the frontline perspective to all of this. Like many of your towns, people in Holland and our governing body were suspicious of the Highlands Act when they first heard about it, and the reason that Holland eventually ended up conforming not only the preservation area but its planning area was, I would say, and I'm sure everybody in our township would agree, was Eileen Swan. Eileen and Tom Borden came out to Holland Township so many times I couldn't tell you the exact number, but it was certainly half a dozen times or more, and I know they were around other towns every night giving up their own personal evenings to go out and visit with people and to explain things. And that's exactly what she did. She showed great respect for people. It was never anything other than it's going to be your choice as to how you go on this. She opened people's eyes as to how the master plan of Holland Township, which we had most recently passed back in 2001, was going to be helped and effectuated and moved forward by buying in on the Highlands Regional Master Plan. And gradually, by getting out there, she convinced people. Certainly she was characterized by an enormous amount of knowledge because she helped to develop the plan. Whenever anyone stepped forth and said something that was half-baked based on things they've heard, like they weren't going to be able to build on an existing lot their individual residence, she quickly could cite the section of the RMP that said exactly the opposite. So she was tremendously knowledgeable, and she was also tremendously persuasive in a very gentle kind of way, and ended up, and this was no small deal in Holland Township because only about 13% of our land is in the preservation area, and so 87% is in the planning area, and Holland was achieved its preliminary conformance back in May of last year, and is now moving forward on its final conformance. I would say that, that to most people, Eileen Swan has been as important to the Highlands RMP and the conformance process as Steve Jobs was to Apple. That she is the person who personifies. Certainly there's a staff. Steve Jobs didn't design every computer and every iPhone, and neither did Eileen write every word or do everything, but she kind of is a symbol who's out there, and people see her as the effective voice of the Highlands Council. So we lost Mr. Jobs to death, unfortunately, and there's nothing we can do about that, but there is something everybody sitting around this table can do about the decision you're about to make. And I hope you'll make it on your own conscience and not from outside pressure, and do the right thing, which I totally believe is to retain Eileen. Now, is this going to take a town like Holland off the track? I don't have any perception of that. I think there's going to be some confusion back home, but I think people will stay on the track to a conformance. But when I look at other towns, our neighbor right next door, Alexandria, which Holland used to be a part, they're going to still have to decide where they're going to conform their planning area. I think they're far less likely to do it and to have let this plan succeed if Eileen isn't in the role. So, as the gentleman said a bit earlier, if it ain't broke, please don't fix it. Thanks.
Jerry Kern, Blackcon Township. My picture's not quite as rosy. I think I'm an average guy trying to make a living for my family. This whole Highlands has ruined my business. I'm in construction. I bought property after hard work. Probably the first person up here that probably owns any land that spoke ahead of me. Easy for everyone else to talk about what they want to do with someone else's land, but I actually worked hard for mine. I have 2 boys that I had hoped to break off 2 5-acre lots. I have 70 acres. Lots of road frontage. I can't do that for my children no more. I'm not happy about it. I don't believe Swan has helped anything. This act is no good, and she keeps going on. When this whole thing started, there was nothing about opting in all this other areas. Blackcon Township wasn't even in the preservation area. I called Gene Herb from the DEP when I heard my town was going to put it in. There was a small sliver, maybe 15% of my town in the preservation area. Next thing I know, that's why I commented on Tracy earlier, my town, within a week, had thrown us in the preservation area, using 78 corridor as a scientific boundary. The whole thing is a forest. I'm for preservation like the next guy, but this is out of control. And I think Swan, unfortunately, may be a nice person, but her mind is not in the right place. She's thinking one-sided and not really thinking about people trying to make a living. And I'm having a hard time swallowing it. I can't give my children, after working as hard as I did, a place to put a home. It's wrong. 70 acres. No reason. Home's right next to it, right across the street. But no, mine's no good now. When I bought it, that wasn't. When I paid for it, I was told I could build on it with no trouble, and I did my due diligence and found that I could put plenty of homes on that property. I only intended 2. I wanted the rest for my own home. So I think she goes around for getting these other towns to opt in the planning area. I think they're saying a forest when they're out there. They're throwing this carrot out there, offering this money, come get the money, get the grant. Now I'm finding out that towns that decide that after taking the grant don't want to opt in. The Highlands is neglecting to pay. So please, respond to that. If I wanted her, I understand
not to get into that at this point in time.
Right, but we were told when they came there, well, not my town, another town, that they took the funds and decided after that any of the planning and attorney fees, engineering fees would be paid by the Highlands. Now I'm hearing that if they refuse to opt in the planning area, that will not be paid. If I'm wrong with that, then she can clarify that, but I don't believe that's the case. And now that's the red carrot. What should have been said when she was there at the meeting is, if you take the money, you already opted in, because the towns don't want to pay the money. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Ben Spinnelli from Chester Township. I'm a former mayor of Chester Township and a former member of this council. I have to come here and express my deep admiration for Eileen Swan. I had the good fortune of working with Eileen as a fellow Highlands mayor, as a fellow member of this council, the Office of Smart Growth, and then afterwards when she took over here as Executive Director of the Highlands Council. Let me just take you back on a trip into history. When Eileen came here to the Highlands Council, the staff was in disarray. The Highlands Regional Master Plan had been mired and was going nowhere. And there was no such thing as a conformance process. Sure. And there was no such thing as a conformance process. Eileen came in here, she put the staff into good order. She moved the Highlands Regional Master Plan process along and brought it through to completion, a very difficult task. And since then has been a great ambassador for the Highlands Act among the municipalities of the Highlands, which you can see just from the presentation earlier today, showing the progress that has been made in getting municipalities to conform with the Regional Master Plan. That kind of success doesn't come easy. It came because of the skills and talents that Eileen has, her ability to speak with municipal officials and to speak in their language and to talk about their concerns and lay those concerns and to work through the problems that they have. Those kinds of skills are not easy to come by. And you're very fortunate to have had that here because her success makes the members of this council look good. The staff and Eileen are the ones who really do the work with the council. And if you look good because of that success, it's because of their efforts. I'll leave you with this because those skills are so difficult to replace. This is supposed to be an independent council. It's your prerogative to make your decision as to who you want to have running this organization for you. But when you make that decision, you've got to look at the skills and talents of the people that you have. And if you're here to really closely analyze what the right thing to do is, I'd urge you to look at that history of the Highlands Council, look at the work that's been done, look at the great accomplishments that the council has achieved under Eileen's leadership. And it'd be hard to come to a decision that she hasn't earned the chance to keep on doing that job because she has been so good at it. And there's still a lot of work left to be done for this council. There's a lot of difficult issues that have to be addressed. The importance of protecting the resources of the Highlands to the region and to the state haven't gone away because of the successes that you've had. And as you go forward, you're going to have to live with the decision that you made. Make one independently. Make it based upon an objective analysis of the performance of your executive director, and do what the right thing is.
Thanks for letting me speak here today. And Mrs. Swan, this is nothing personal, all right? So, my name is Hank Klumpp. I'm a farmer from Tewksbury. Eileen Swan has been Executive Director of the Highlands Council since 2007. I understand that the Highlands Coalition, an environmental lobbyist group, is concerned that Governor Christie may be pressuring members of the council to oust her. I have been standing before this council for over 8 years now, asking to see the scientific study that put my property into the preservation area, and also where the compensation is for the loss of property values and how I can operate without equity. Mrs. Swan, as director, I honestly say, has never directed anyone to answer my questions or to help me in any way. I guess Mrs. Swan never felt my questions or concerns are, as the council put it, feasible. I need someone to help me now. And Mrs. Swan has proven to me she has no intention of helping me, and neither did the directors who came before her through the revolving door of the Highlands. I'm totally in favor of changes. Maybe the next director will be the charm. How can it be any worse to me? What more do I stand to lose? Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
My name is Barbara Cochran, and I would just like to say that Mrs. Swan's focus always was on water. Water for our grandchildren, our children, and for ourselves, and for millions of people down the street from the Highlands. I want to ask you, what's your focus on?
I'm sorry?
What's your focus on?
Thank you. My name is David Shope, and in the beginning, Eileen Swan was one of the original Highlands Task Force members. And the Highlands Task Force asked a series of questions.
Can't hear you, Dave.
The Highlands Task Force asked a series of questions, which, and these are the questions: how important is it to protect water quality and quantity in the Highlands? What level of environmental protection do you think reservoirs, rivers, and streams should receive in the Highlands? How important is it to preserve open space and farmland in the Highlands? Should the state pass legislation to require regional planning in the Highlands? The fifth question, the last question: should the state require regional planning in the Highlands to protect drinking water, forests, and other sensitive environmental lands, even if it means that local municipalities could lose some of their influence over certain development decisions? What was never asked, and remains to be asked and answered: what would the public, who answered vastly in favor of all these questions put forward, what would they be willing to pay for that? The question was never asked and consequently never answered. And it begs to be answered. And then we go to Senator Smith's rather famous quote of March 30th, 2004, when he was challenged many times about where's the funding, where's the equity consideration and so forth. He said, if there's one lesson tonight, it's the voice in the background from Tom Cruise. Show me the money. Laughter. And Chairman McKeon and I pledged that we will show you the money. We're currently working with the governor's office to put together a dedicated and guaranteed source of funding so that the Highlands, which is making a sacrifice for the rest of the state, is properly compensated. We will show you the money. The lie continued. The lie continued at the state senate level. Then we go on to the various estimates of what it would cost to preserve the land in the Highlands. We go with a Rutgers thing where they say 1.9 billion. This is dated 4/21/05. Highlands Council, August 2010, 1.33 billion. Or if you want to preserve a little more land, 3.38 billion. All efforts of the Highlands Council. This is fantasy land. You're talking of 1.3, 1.9, 3 point something. There's no billions. The state is broke. The last thing the state is going to do is pay compensation for what it has stolen. And Eileen Swan has done precious little that I'm aware of to address the issues that were brought on early on, 2004, by Guy Gregg, who posed a question at a hearing, and what's his name, Smith answered, we'll show you the money. I think it's time for a change. It's time for somebody to consider the landowner equity issues and not the toads and salamanders. I think they should be relegated further down the food chain. Thank you.
My name is Elliott Ruga. I am the Senior Policy Analyst with the New Jersey Highlands Coalition. Eileen, back in March 2010, the governor at a town hall meeting announced his hostility towards the Highlands Act, and that he was going to see that people who felt the way he did, who were against the Highlands Act, were appointed to the Highlands Council. And the governor has achieved exactly that. And it's unfortunate that the people who will be left holding the bag are the citizens of New Jersey, because there's a singular lack of vision. Because if the people who support the Highlands Act and understand the resource that's at risk, and the people who are so against the Highlands Act would get together and demand from its elected officials that there be a way to compensate those who are aggrieved, we wouldn't be here today with a council who is ready to fire a very, very competent servant of New Jersey. It's unfortunate, and I hope this can change.
Janice Kovach, Town of Clinton, former member of the Highlands Council. And I am here today because as I served on this council with several of you, although we didn't always agree, we never let politics rule how we made our decisions. We based them on the facts, we based them on the information that was brought to us by Eileen and her staff. I'm sorely disappointed to hear the rumors that this council will now allow politics to drive how this board and the executive director's position will be held. We worked hard, we disagreed, but ultimately the end goal was always kept in mind. Eileen Swan has been a dedicated, committed individual to this cause, both on the task force, on the council as a member, and as the executive director. I'm proud to call her friend, and I'm proud of the work that she has done along with her staff on this council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Rucci. I'm from Lebanon Township. I'm
Sorry, your
the
name?
former chair of the Environmental Commission. If you didn't hear me, it's Mary Rucci from Lebanon Township. The Highlands Act is not uncontroversial. I have people behind me who feel that they've been treated badly. I have people behind me who feel it's the best thing they've ever seen. But what I see in front of me now is not a council that's going to carry this forward. It's a council that is deciding to bow to political pressure, deciding that the Highlands Act has not been put into place for good reasons, deciding to create a whipping post in either the form of Eileen Swan. I've had the pleasure of working with Eileen Swan. I remember a number of instances, and as everyone has said to you already multiple times, this is a woman who goes out there and listens, and she doesn't listen to one side, and she does it for the good of all, not for the good of one. In consequence, there are going to be people who are hurt. Unfortunately, I didn't think it was going to be Eileen Swan doing the right thing who was going to take the place of you doing the right thing today. Now, you have an opportunity. You haven't voted yet, but I know you've already voted. You've made your decision because people have been pressuring you to vote. You won't remember me after today, but I will remember you. I remember this council. I remember how untransparent and how wrong we've become in this state. I voted for Chris Christie. I thought he was going to come in, but he has proved himself to be just the same political hack. I asked you not to bow to that kind of pressure. I know you will. It'll be very sad. I hope that someday you'll be able to forget how you decided to vote against your conscience and because someone else told you to vote that way. And I commend Eileen Swan, and it's your loss and the state's loss. And wherever she goes, she's going to take that good that she's done and she's going to continue to do it. But she won't do it for you. She won't do it for the Highlands Council.
Andrea Bonette, former mayor and township committee woman of East Amwell Township. I've been following the Highlands in the papers, obviously, and as things went on, but I've really been following this meeting with a great deal of interest. And what the conclusion I have come to here, from the speakers only, just based on what I've heard today, is if they get rid of Eileen Swan, they can trash the Highlands project. And if they keep Eileen Swan, they will have a strong Highlands project going on. So I'd like all of you to think about it, because how you vote today will determine whether you want a strong Highlands project or you want it trashed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dave Peifer. I've been before this council many times. I've been to every Highlands meeting, council meeting, but two. One because I was sick, the other one because I had a heart attack. I want to commend Eileen Swan to you, not so much as a policy wonk, but as a skilled negotiator and a skilled person with human values. What we've seen happen in the Highlands up until the passage of the Act was a freight train out of control. There was not going to be open space, drinking water, wildlife habitat if the present process was allowed to continue. What we've seen in the efforts to control that is the development of something that's unique in the entire United States. A regional master plan and the geographic data developed to back up that plan with strong science. Eileen has administered that process with skill and competence, and I would urge you to not allow decisions about the functioning of this council to be dictated by short-term political interest. What we have in front of us is the future water supply for 6 million, maybe more people. And protecting that water supply is not a short-term effort. Protecting that water supply is going to take a decade, half a century, or a century. And you guys are the ones that are on the line right now to get it moving and get it started on the right foot. I'm going to close with just one comment I would like to be taken back to Mr. Droniak in the governor's office, and that is that I am neither hysterical nor overwrought. What I am here to do on a daily basis is preserve and protect the heritage that the people of New Jersey share in the New Jersey Highlands. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
My name is Basil Hone. I'm from Oldwick in Hunterdon County. The descendant of past presidents and man of letters, Henry Brooks Adams, wrote in 1907, "Practical politics consists in ignoring facts." The facts are, Eileen, that you have done an outstanding job, albeit starved of funding, in motivating the Highland staff, in being instantly responsive to the concerns and questions of the region's local authorities, in producing and efficiently administering the regional master plan, and in being an outstanding professional in your dealings with bureaucrats, planners, and the public. If practical politics dictates that you must go, your legacy certainly will not. You have built a structure that the practical politicians will not be able to tear down without transgressing the law. And to demonstrate its regard for your legacy, the environmental community will be watching closely.
Thank you. My name is Jon Holt. I'm from Tewksbury Township. I'm also Issues Manager for the Friends of Fairmount Historic District. I know many of the members here are aware we have an issue in Tewksbury Township with JCP&L, the substation. DEP had a lot of angst and trouble making decisions on its consistency and asked the Highlands Council to make that determination. When my wife and I first came, had our first encounter with Eileen, I have to say we were put off a little. And this may counter some of the salamanders and other issues that have been said before. Eileen said, we have to understand, we have to balance the economy and the preservation of the area. And so we have to look at these economic programs and we can't just not approve them. We have to look at them carefully. Well, in going through the process, that was upsetting to hear. What I learned and found out was that Eileen set up a very transparent process. She and Tom even came to a public meeting that was put on by Tewksbury Township so the people of Tewksbury could talk about this issue. Public comment, it was a transparent plan, a way that people could comment and participate, unlike the DEP process. And at the end of the day, they were very supportive of our concerns and said that this didn't really meet the consistency requirements of the Exemption 11 and that it should not be approved. Well, DEP, who was headed by a former consultant to the energy industry, has decided to overlook that and approve the project. Next week, we're going to be in court with our briefs. They'll have the counter briefs, and in April, this will be before the State Appellate Court. But we'll be defending the Highlands Act. We'll be defending that balance between economic growth and preservation of this important natural resources. And that's what I want you to think about. I notice you have a personnel committee that's going to be looking, should you vote to replace Ms. Swan. I would hope that committee is going to do a thorough search, looking for professionals. The other professionals are out there that can get your approval to look at what your goals are, but you have that professional support. We had it through Eileen and staff. I'm afraid we're going to lose staff, that professional staff, if Eileen goes. And that's something you have to look at seriously. Thank you.
Wilma Frey, New Jersey Conservation Foundation. First of all, I would like to thank Eileen for your many years of exemplary public service. First as mayor of Lebanon Township, then as the executive director of the Office of Smart Growth or State Planning, can't remember what the name was, and then for the last 5 years as the executive director of this Highlands Council. That is certainly a resume that would be extremely difficult to replicate or duplicate. As you have already heard in others' testimony, you, Eileen, have provided enormously competent, capable, experienced, and courageous leadership to this body. And I have heard most of the members of this council itself express these opinions rather recently in a discussion about the authority of the executive director, when basically almost everyone agreed that, yes, the executive director should just do that. We don't have time to deal with all of this. So, this proposed resolution, it is not about the performance of the executive director, Eileen. This resolution is about the integrity of the members of the council and of the process of selecting and managing staff by the council. All of you took an oath of office to uphold the Highlands Act. By her leadership of an excellent staff and its work, Eileen has enabled you and made it possible for this council and for you to do that. Today, this is a vote. This vote is a test of your commitment to the oath that you took, a promise that you made to the public to, at the very least, more than 6 million of New Jersey citizens who are counting on this council to preserve their water supply for the future. We all count on this council as well to protect the precious and beautiful landscape of the Highlands with its forests, its farmlands, its wildlife, its historic sites and recreational opportunities. Under Eileen's guidance, the council has also created centers in plan conformance that will grow and enhance vibrant towns and municipalities in this region. This vote is a test of your independence. This vote is a test of whether you care about and will endeavor to secure New Jersey's long-term sustainable future or not. I ask you to vote no on any motion to remove Eileen Swan. Please vote with integrity and with the vision and mission of the Highlands Water Protection Planning Act first and foremost in your lives. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. My name is Ed Potosnak, and I'm with the New Jersey League of Conservation Voters. I was raised in Montville, New Jersey. The vote you're about to take is highly consequential. As you're aware from the testimony that came before me, the council's independence is at stake. The precedent that you set today may affect the Highlands for generations. And this council was established in statute as an independent executive agency with a specific goal of insulating you from being told by either the legislature or the governor how to vote and carry out your sworn duties. We at the League believe strongly that the Highlands Council must retain its statutory independence in reality, not just in name. The people here in the Highlands and the millions of families and businesses that depend on the Highlands for their water, the council, must bring consistency over time to the policies and procedures. You must provide certainty and foster confidence that the regional master plan is stable and that it will not shift with each change in political leadership of our state. Think of the message you will send to the families and businesses that have invested in this region if you take orders from Trenton. From its inception, this council was purposely shielded from the power brokers in Trenton. And today marks a potential turning point. There's no question that Ms. Swan has done her job extremely well, as you've heard. While we don't agree with every decision she has made or the council has made, but we do have to recognize that she's performed at the highest level in a very challenging task. And you cannot remove her based on her job performance. Voting yes to Mrs. Swan's removal will send a message that the Highlands and its growth management plan is up for grabs with each election cycle, whomever might be in power. Please vote to retain Mrs. Swan and preserve this council's independence. If the council determines that it needs a new executive director, do it on your own terms and for reasons of actual job performance. You are the council, and the families and businesses in this region are counting on you to ensure that this body is in a strong position to do whatever is in the best interest of our communities, not the Trenton insiders. on your own today, vote no, and act on your own tomorrow. Vote yes today to take orders from Trent insiders for the remainder of your term on this council. The council will not be providing consistency or predictability if you head of your organization can change at the whim of the governor. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Millsaps with the New Jersey Sierra Club. I just want to say that this is a sad day for the Highlands, and it sets a dangerous precedent in the future. Eileen is a professional with unparalleled expertise in a broad range of issues impacting the Highlands region. You will be hard-pressed to find someone as qualified, and we fear that this is going to become a political appointment. The legislative intent was to keep this from being such an appointment, as the executive director is to serve at the pleasure of the council, not at the pleasure of the governor. This body is now putting politics before the protection of our drinking water. And I was also very disappointed to find out that there was going to be such a narrow range of opinion on the Personnel Committee. I would urge you to include Councilmember Carluccio or somebody to bring a more broad range of opinions to the Personnel Committee. Councilmember Carluccio has prior experience on the committee and will bring an important perspective to the hiring process. Right now, the Personnel Committee consists of 2 Republican elected officials who are on the public record opposing the Highlands Act and the science behind it, and a large landowner who prioritizes equity issues. Not that there's nothing wrong with Councilmember Alstede prioritizing those issues, but there should also be a more broad range of opinion, including somebody with a more environmental leaning from the council. The Personnel Committee needs this diverse range to find somebody that can come even close to what Eileen has done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council members, Mayor Skovich sends his regrets for not being able to be here. He had his wife out of town, and Councilwoman Frey has her husband actually just got out of surgery, so they would both be here to share their love and their respect for you. My name is Scott Olson. Excuse me, I've got allergies. I'm Deputy Mayor of Byram Township. Despite what Julia said, there are elected officials here who are willing to come forward and speak out against what's happening today. I want to echo all the same concerns that Mayor Kovach said as far as Eileen's performance. We've had nothing but wonderful experiences with her. At times we've not always agreed on things, Eileen, but we're able to sit down, shake hands, and respect each other for our opinions and share that concern for the environment, which is something that all of you should be concerned for here. Just a real quick overview of what happened in our town, I think can bring you to where you should be at. At one point, we had a 9-0 planning board decision to not conform. We had a 3-2 vote to conform by our governing body. One vote made the difference of whether or not Byram Township would conform. Our planning board, our appointed planning officials met with Eileen, met with her staff, and through the course of the conformance process, we came up with the first Highlands designated center. Our water quality management plan is at the top of the list in DEP right now. We have what I consider the best and most prosperous potential for growth in Sussex County in our village center, a corridor off of Route 206, not far from train stations. Anybody who tells you that this act is unable to provide economic growth is lying. It's that simple. There is plenty of economic growth, and Ms. Swan and her staff have brought that to the forefront in the applications that have come before this council. As it ended up, when all was said and done, we had a unanimous vote of both the planning board and the governing body to conform and be designated the first center. And I think that's all attributable to the work that Eileen's done, her personality, her work ethic. I get phone calls from her in the middle of the night. I get phone calls from her on weekends. We've got questions that we need asked. They did everything within their power to make sure that the elected officials of the town were comfortable with the process, that we knew we could back out at any time, and there was no reason ever to do so. So I'm really a little disappointed that this has come before this today. I'm also disappointed that there's a resolution put forward and public comment without hearing from any of you as to why this is being done. I can only assume that there's been talk offline, which I think is it's unfortunate because transparency is important. Excuse me?
Council members, if they wish to, will speak after the public.
Right, but I'm just saying that it would be nice for us to be able to react to it as a member of the public, to hear what the excuses are for wanting Ms. Swan gone, because I can see none. Personally, I think there's no excuse for letting her go, and I would urge all of you to vote from your hearts, and don't let pressure be put on you. I'm sitting here right now. I don't care. I'm not doing what's right for an elected official, for anybody but myself and my constituents, and you need to do the same for yourselves. Anybody who thinks that they owe it to someone else as a political favor to vote in that manner is wrong. It should be ashamed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michele Byers from New Jersey Conservation Foundation. I'm here for a few quick comments. New Jersey has basically a 30 to 35 year history of or more of independent agencies. Highlands Commission is a good example, where the authority is vested within the council or the commission to hire and fire its executive director. In the 30 years that I've been working in this area under 6 governors, nothing like this has ever happened. There has been a seamless and gracious and thoughtful transition from executive director to executive director in the Pinelands Commission for over 35 years under 6 governors. I also served on the State Planning Commission under Governor Whitman, Governor McGreevey, and Governor Corzine, and the same could be said under that process. This is simply not the way to go, and I know that all of you have been working with Eileen for a long time. You know she's pragmatic, you know she takes direction, you know she works well with local government. If there's a serious issue with the Highlands, Eileen's not the problem. I suggest that there's another approach, which would be to sit down and have an honest discussion with the staff as to what needs to be changed in the Highlands. If there needs to be more emphasis on buying out affected property owners and dealing with hardships, then maybe there needs to be more emphasis placed on that. Have that discussion. I don't think that removing a highly effective leader is really an honest approach. And I actually think it's very important for all of you to think about the legacy and the history that you have as members of the Highlands Council to carry on the year-to-year, decade-to-decade efforts that it takes to preserve resources and to promote economic development in a thoughtful way. And it's clear that in the Highlands, economic development is a very big part of the puzzle. And Eileen, I think, has been very good at that, sometimes to the degree that many in the conservation community are not happy and think that she's gone too far. But I urge you to take a very, very good, hard look at the situation that you're in today and to retain the independence of the Highlands Council, vote to keep your executive director, set up a personnel committee to take a good, hard look at what you want to do differently. And if it turns out that getting a new director really is what's needed, then so be it. Go through a transparent process. But coming in like this is absolutely the wrong approach. And I think it would be a very bad precedent for not just for the Highlands, but for New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ken Hendrick, just an observer of the Highlands Act for many, many years. Normally I would say I only know what I read in the press, but I've heard a lot here which confirms what I read in the press, which is basically that Eileen Swan has been doing an outstanding job. But anyway, having said that, here's what I want to just remark, having read the newspaper and what I hear here. It seems that the only objections voiced so far relate to policy issues, either compensation to landowners or the regulations themselves. And I would say if the regulations are too strict or the compensation too little, the entire council should petition the state legislature to take appropriate action to amend the law. The primary responsibility for policy matters rests not with the executive director who administers and executes the policy, but with you, the entire council. Unless you provide performance-related reasons for Eileen Swan's removal, you will appear to be bowing to outside pressures, and you will prove that Julie Summers of the Highlands Coalition is correct that Eileen Swan is being terminated for her success. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Winifred Hines, and I'm from Newark. I'm with the Newark Water Group and also with the Weequahic Park Association. And I personally don't have any experience with Ms. Swan, but from what I've heard so eloquently stated here, she's extremely competent. And what concerns us being environmentalists from Newark, are the allegations that you are buckling under pressure from the governor. We are concerned that this will set a dangerous precedent that could set the Highlands back. It also undermines your integrity and dedication for the Highlands. I implore you to vote with integrity. Your independence is at stake. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been at every meeting of the Highlands Council. I've been at every meeting of the Highlands Council since August of last year. I've not heard one word since I've been on the council as to why Eileen Swan should be fired. Can I ask when this idea originated?
Sorry, excuse me, I was interrupted.
Can I ask when this idea originated? I haven't heard anything in a meeting since I've been on this council since August.
I can't speak for every member here.
Well, for you yourself.
I have had inclinations of a change since before I was on the council. This doesn't disparage some of the fine work that Eileen's done. Eileen and I have dealt with each other prior to my getting an appointment to this council. I've had my issues in general, but that's for me personally.
And they were never announced at a meeting here?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Were you the person who originated the idea?
I have talked to members in the past, yes.
You've talked to members outside these meetings?
I've talked to individuals, yes.
Have you talked to members of this council outside these meetings?
Yes.
Have you discussed firing Ms. Swan as a part of those discussions?
Where are you going with this?
I'm asking questions. I'm in the dark. I have to read about this in the papers, okay? I read about the fact that an executive director on a council that I'm a member of is about to be dismissed, and I have no idea why, how it came about, who decided they wanted to dismiss her, and what the grounds for the dismissal are. Then I read in the paper that we want to go in a different direction. We want to get more involved with the businesses. We want to get more involved with the property owners. Property owners, that's great. I would ask that our next meeting, or actually an executive meeting, a special executive meeting be held so that we can have a discussion amongst ourselves on how to compensate the landowners that are affected. Okay, I would ask that that be done in an emergency meeting within the next 2 months. All right, so we take care of that. I've never heard any of this discussed at a meeting. You've said you've had discussions with other council members. Can I ask who those council members were?
No.
Okay. You have had discussions with council members? Two council members. And the other council members just decided, this epiphany occurred, that they also, at the exact same time, want to dismiss Eileen Swan.
Mr. Dressler, I'm not going to go down this. We're not in a court of law.
Actually, we may be, Jim.
Okay, then that's what we'll do.
I'm going to ask the councilor a question. If discussions were held between council members outside of these meetings about dismissing an employee, is that not a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act? Actually, councilor, I'm not going to ask you because I don't want you to be on the chopping block next month. In a former life, I was a county council. I have some expertise in government. It is exactly a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. Now, for those members who are sitting here and are on the fence, and I know that there's probably a few of you, I know that there are some members here who, are marionettes. All we need to do is see the strings be pulled. But there are some members on this council who I think are agonizing over this, who don't know what to do at this particular point. Be aware that if there is an Open Meeting Act violation, you are personally responsible. You do not stand within the code of doing it under the color of law. Be absolutely clear of that. And there will be an inquiry. We'll be going to either the Attorney General, or if we can't get a fair shake from the Attorney General of the state of New Jersey, we'll be going to the U.S. Attorney's Office, asking them to have an inquiry into whether or not there has been a violation of the Sunshine Act, the Open Public Meetings Act. So be aware of that. Okay? It's so appropriate that this meeting is being held on March 15th, the Ides of March. Because we're seeing in one fell swoop the death of Eileen Swan and the death of the Highlands Council. It is one of the most gutless moves I have ever seen in 37 years of politics. I can't believe it. Absolutely gutless. John Kennedy wrote a book, Profiles in Courage. He wouldn't have any subject matter in his room tonight. And as to the question, I heard the word mentioned here tonight. I'm trying to think of the word that was used. Compromise. Compromise. The only issue about compromise tonight is the compromise of integrity, of ethics, and of conscience. It's unconscionable what's happening here tonight. Now, when you vote today, take a look at this woman and realize that you're ruining her personal life and her economic life. Think long and hard about that when you make this vote. Personnel committee. We now have a personnel committee, a newly comprised personnel committee, and we'll get an executive director, and we'll get an executive pushed through because of this personnel committee. And it will be the personnel committee of hear no evil, see no evil, and speak no evil. This is the first death knell, okay? After this Highlands Council will be gutted. The master plan will be changed, mark my words, okay? And we'll be here to holler about it and let people know what's going on. Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be heard?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I might. All the members here were appointed to this council for the purpose of upholding and reinforcing the Highland Act. The appointment I take seriously, and I'm sure my peers take very seriously as well. Mr. Chairman, I'll tell you, I was disappointed and discouraged that no one from the Highlands Council contacted me relative to this highly sensitive personnel issue that is on our agenda today, concerning the potential dismissal and or replacement of our executive director. It is frustrating to be contacted by several newspapers who asking questions that I was unable to answer. I don't like to be in that position at all, Mr. Chairman. And I was unable to respond to their questions, and then the next day I'm reading all of this stuff in the newspaper. Mr. Swan, in my opinion, is a highly regarded, highly talented, articulate team player who is respected by peers and subordinates alike. Further, she has earned and gained the respect from the municipalities, towns, counties, and townships we have reviewed. Further, she has definitely earned my respect. Being a multi-decade elected official, I understand the politics of the director's position as well as the potential ramifications. It must be understood here today that my comments are in no way negative to any potential executive director or replacement, and my comments are objective as I can be. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I think one thing that's very clear from the public and from council members as well is that Eileen Swan has done an exemplary job as Executive Director of the Highlands Council. So it begs the question, why are we considering getting rid of her? What is the cause? What is the goal? These questions are left unanswered, and I think it puts us as council members in a very bad position. I think what we've been reading in the newspaper and what we've heard here today makes it very clear. The firing of Eileen Swan is about one thing. It's because they want to stop the progress of the Regional Master Plan and the faithful implementation of the Highlands Act. That's what this is about. I draw our attention to our progress report from tonight. 365,000 conforming acres out of the 860 acres in the Highlands region. 42% conforming. 97% conformance in the preservation area. 33% performance in the planning area. Towns that have both planning and preservation area are 53% opting in. From the moment this council started to get
an aggregation of folks that are being appointed by Governor Christie. We saw complaints from board members about planning areas opting in. This move is because they do not want towns' planning areas to opt in to the regional master plan, and they want to gut the regional master plan that this public and this council and yes, Eileen Swan put together. A huge public effort was put underway since 2004 to put together what has become a national model. It's not recognized for what it should be because, you know, all good things don't go rewarded. But in fact, this national model now is being replaced by a national disgrace. I'm embarrassed as a New Jerseyan that it looks as if the stereotype, the degrading stereotype that's thrown out at us as New Jerseyans is coming true here in the Highlands Council, where we've managed to keep it out. That strong arm politics, those backroom deals. And instead now, we're turning what is a national shining model of planning and protection, resource protection, community protection, protection for half of the people in New Jersey's water supply, into a degrading national model. I asked my fellow council members not to fire Eileen today. I know that a lot of people are conflicted because they see this as a personal issue. It's not a personal issue. They're not going after Eileen, they're going after the Highlands. We have to remember that. And if we want the Highlands Act to work, if we don't want this plan to be gutted, which we have had council members newly appointed that have said on the record that their goal is to begin the update as soon as possible, to gut the plan, that is. That's council speak for gutting the plan. To stop the implementation of the RMP as it was put together, and to gut the plan and put together a Highlands Light or a non-Highlands or one of those big not signs over the Highlands protection. I asked our council members to come to your senses. I was going to bring up the Open Public Meetings Act. I'm glad the judge did a much better job than I could have done on that one. But I too feel that if it didn't violate the law, it definitely violated the spirit, but it seems to me it may have violated the law. I'd like to know how many council members got a phone call. Was it 8? Please do not vote. Do not vote to get rid of Eileen
Swan. Did you have any conversations with the judge with any members of this council to vote?
I did not have any conversations with the judge, no.
Judge?
Nice try.
No conversations with anybody? Thank you. Just wanted to be clear. Anybody else on the council wish to be heard?
I have a few.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Mr. Francis?
Eileen Swan is my hero. Truly, she is. But to question the integrity of this council and its ability to manage its affairs is really not fair. And I'm of the same opinion with any municipality. The responsibility of that board. And so you can imagine any scenario you want. But when a independent council such as ours decides to make a proposal to make a change, I'm really don't agree with severe criticism. I think it's the right of this council to put forward a resolution. It stands and falls on its own merits. And everybody has to vote their conscience, and that's how it works in a democracy. And so you can criticize that or not, but I go back to the integrity of the council. And so, and it's the same pressure and convincing arguments that you all make, saying we should make a change. And if, in our opinion, the people that do support the change have to get the same amount of respect. And so I know I'm at a little bit, maybe I'm at 50,000 feet with it, but that's how I view it, and that's how I view my decisions that I make on this council. And it's made based on the evidence at hand, and there's nothing saying that if we make a change, there's anything wrong. Sometimes the process matures to a point where we ought to have a change. And so, I don't know how I feel about it.
Thank you, Mr. Dress. Any other council?
Mike Sebetich. I'm one of the new council members, and so I've known Eileen only for about 3 months. And I found her a remarkable, efficient, hard worker. And those of you in the public and other council members have known her a lot longer than I have given her accolades, and I cannot, and I stand with you on those. As other people, all I know about this situation is what I have read in the newspapers. The governor's office hasn't called me. I wonder why. I think there should be an independent council, independent of the governor's office. It appears that it might not be. It appears that the governor's office has asked members to remove Eileen Swan, who has high credentials and has done a wonderful job in her 5 years. And I agree with that. Her wonderful job, that is. So, it seemed like a political thing, and I object to the governor's office to force this vote. And I think that's why we're here today. If I think the governor's office hasn't interfered with this, we would not be discussing this vote today. So I think it's just dirty politics at the highest state level. I don't like it, and it's not good for the people of the state of New Jersey. So I'm afraid that if this vote to remove Eileen carries through, that the governor's office may control the activities and decisions of the Highlands Council and staff, and that would be quite regrettable.
Mr. Ritchko?
I'd like to begin by reading the editorial today from Star Ledger. For the record, and I'm not sure that all of you have had a chance to see it. It says, "Give Governor Chris Christie this much. He has been clear from the start that he is hostile towards the Highlands Act. But he can't kill it outright because Democrats in the legislature won't let him. He is doing it by stealth, appointing council members who have stated explicitly that they oppose the law that they are charged to enforce. Now, the fight has taken an ugly new turn. Eileen Swan, a voice of reason in the battle between preservation and development, is likely to be fired today as the council's executive director at the governor's request. The cover story is that Swan has stood in the way of efforts to compensate landowners in the Highlands when the law's restrictions on building caused the value of their property to drop. But the folks who are spreading this story haven't done their homework. Swan has been a sturdy advocate for more generous compensation. She has testified in the Senate and Assembly in favor of more funds, and she successfully lobbied former Governor Jon Corzine to provide $10 million as a down payment in the effort. The real explanation is that Swan believes the council should enforce the law that it is charged to enforce. She is no extremist for either side. A former Republican mayor, she infuriated environmentalists by urging approval of a gas pipeline and an electrical transmission line through the Highlands region. Her reason was that law specifically allows for such utility upgrades. The Highlands Act is probably the single most important piece of environmental legislation to pass during the past decade. It limits development in nearly 1 million acres of land across the northern part of the state, protecting the water supply to 5 million people. If the governor doesn't like the law, he should propose changes. To sabotage its enforcement by firing someone with Swan's energy and integrity is simply wrong. Swan was has waived her rights to executive session, so tonight's discussion will likely be open. Let's hope the council members have the backbone to resist the governor's power play. That's the editorial. And I certainly hope my fellow council members do have that backbone. Most of us are guys up here, we don't call it backbone or guts, we call it something else. And I hope that you will do the right thing. I have two questions for the council. First, for everybody that's a member of this council. Why? Why are we doing this? Why would we be firing somebody who has had such good success and has done such a good job? I've been on the council for 2 years, and the gentleman that I was appointed, there was about 4 of us appointed around the same time. And I've spoken to them many times in the council meetings, and never has anything been about Eileen's bad work habits. Nothing but praise, absolute praise. For them to, and I hope this is not going to be the case, but to vote to oust her, I couldn't believe it. And I could only think that has to do with politics, and we all know that. Everybody sitting out there, you know that this is about politics. My second question is directed to the members of this council that are elected officials from their town. I want to know, and I think everybody out there wants to know the truth. And I'm not going to use the word threatened, but I'm going to use the word advised. Have any of you been advised that your town may suffer the consequences if you don't vote a certain way? I guess silence is golden.
I won't be silent. The answer in my town is no.
Good. All right, well, let's go on. Eileen, hold your head up high, very high, because you've done a good job. There's no doubt about that. You've been extremely professional, and your dedication is unbelievable. You have much more integrity than anybody sitting up here, that's for sure. And I thank you for giving me such a good education about water and about the Highlands. And if you do not have your job after today, it's because of one thing: nasty, dirty politics. That's it.
Any other members have any comments at all? Mr. Alston?
I think I bring a little bit of historical perspective. There's only 2 of us that have been on from the beginning now. And I really believe that it's naive to think that there's not been political influence in this process since before the act even occurred. If you go back in the history of the development of the recommendations and then the creation of the act, before it was passed, the changes, there's always been heavy fingerprints of the chief executive of this state in the process. In fact, if you were truly objective in the audience, I think you would recall the speed of lightning which was exercised in creating this legislation and passing it through the legislature. Through a legislature that had a dominant Democratic control of both houses and Governor McGreevey. But I was there, and so I know. And you can gnaw, and you can grind your teeth, and you can grit at me and accuse me of not having integrity today. But I'm here to tell you that I endured it. And I, through the process, testified and watched as the Highlands area was turned into the colonies for northeastern New Jersey. And what's a colony? A colony is an area of land where resources are taken without being paid for. And I've watched for 8 years sitting on this council as the water resources have been taken from the Highlands and given to people, because certainly the 6 million people that are using it aren't paying more money for it. And really, isn't this what it's all about, the money? We've been promised and promised and promised compensation. I heard people tonight testify, what is this doing to Eileen personally? What havoc is it wreaking on her economically? What havoc has that wreaked upon countless hundreds of thousands of people who live in the Highlands region? And how many of you really know those stories? I was on the original personnel committee when we sought to hire the very first executive director. And I will tell you that we were told who we were hiring. We set out first very nobly with advertisements and
interviews and suggested we were going to hire the right person and we were going to be above it all. And one day we were told who the governor wanted. And we were also told, you can choose other people, you can suggest other people, but this is who the governor wants. And guess who we selected for the first executive director? The person the governor wanted. We're all here because we're political appointees. Somehow or another, we've come to the attention of the governor, somehow, and we've been placed on here. And the act even specifies a certain number of D's and R's. I mean, we are here because this process is political. I would suggest also that for the majority of the people in the audience, if we had an executive director now who was too pro-development, in many people's opinion, in your opinion, that you would be applauding the actions of the council right now if we sought to remove an executive director that was too pro-development and not enough pro-conservation. But because it's the opposite way, tonight we're spineless, horrible, ill-considered council members that lack integrity. Integrity is doing what's right when no one's watching. And I'm prepared to do what's right while you're all watching tonight. I look forward to the opportunity to have a new chance to right some of these wrongs. And I live and operate in a career for 3.5 decades that generates income that my family has decided to channel into preservation efforts. And that's what we do. We speak and act what many of you desire. And I've watched people get wronged. And I see this as a really good opportunity to see things become more balanced. It may not be the way that everybody desires that the balance occur, but I think that this is an opportunity for achieving balance, and I think we need to seize the opportunity. And for me, living in the Highlands, owning a business in the Highlands, representing people in the Highlands, that's all in the preservation area. I know my constituents want the opportunity to see some of the wrongs righted.
Any other comments?
One of the newer members, but I did put some stuff together and I've been crossing it out and rewriting it, and I can put it on the record that the chairman never called me. That's for the record. But I do respect the chairman's position and the right to make appointments. That's part of being on the council and his position. Well, I just wanted to take for the record, when I was appointed to the Highlands Council, I began looking forward to the challenge of balancing legitimate environmental concerns with property rights and the need to experience growth in the state of New Jersey. Not an easy task, but one I was eager to embrace. Being mayor exposes to many challenges on a daily basis. Serving on the council requires us to make decisions on various issues, and prudence dictates that we consider the recommendations and comments of our professionals before we make our final decision. In addition, we all need to appreciate and respect the extending factors that are evident in virtually all the issues that we must face, balancing potential jobs with protecting sensitive environments, and understanding and accepting the process. The responsibilities and subsequent achievements of the Highland Council far outweigh each of us as council members and staff. To realize the goals of the council, we need all the pieces working together if possible. As such, sometimes decisions must be made that are not necessarily ideal, or perhaps even desirable. One of these decisions is to replace our Executive Director Eileen Swan. She's highly competent and wonderful to work with, and has nothing but the purest interest in the success of the Highland Council. If circumstances arise that can hamper her effectiveness in achieving the goals and objectives of the Highlands Act, that can also be jeopardized. This would not serve anyone's interest. As I stated earlier, no one individual is greater than the mission of the Highlands Act and the responsibilities of the council to oversee its implementation, and I believe that we need as dedicated and qualified individual as Eileen Swan is. She is removed tonight. I respect, again, the chairman's position and his right to make appointments. I also greatly respect the responsibilities I have been entrusted with on the Highlands Commission and want to ensure that the right people are put in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other comments? I'd like to make a comment if I may. Sure.
I've known Eileen Swan. We served together as mayors of our neighboring communities, and she is a treat to work with. She's a wonderful lady. But I will be voting to remove her tonight, and she knows that. We've spoken about this. I've been accused of many things during this year-and-a-half process of my being nominated to the Highlands Council and being appointed to it and now serving. I've been called a dangerous man, which my wife found kind of interesting. But certainly I don't endanger anyone. I certainly love this county that I serve. I love this area. I love this state. I want to see the water protected. I want to see the land protected. But I also want to see the homeowners, the landowners made whole. There comes a time in every organization when a change is needed. And it is ironic that not only is this the Ides of March, but this comes right on the heels of, so if we're talking guy talk, Carl, they had changed in the Indianapolis Colts. They got rid of Peyton Manning. Nobody questions he was an outstanding leader of that team. Changes happen. Change is sometimes necessary for an organization to move forward and to thrive. The Colts may move forward as not a passing team, maybe a running team, because of a change in leadership. I believe that this council needs to change in some of the things that we do, and that I think is going to require a change in leadership. No one is pulling my strings. I am not a puppet. I stood up to Governor Christie. Governor Christie tried to close Hagedorn in my county, a place where I as a child sang Christmas carols to the senior citizens. I spoke out publicly against closing that facility. I said when the governor is right, it's our job to support him, but when he's wrong, it's our job to tell him he's wrong. Somehow I survived that, was still nominated by that same governor to serve on this council, and still have the respect of that governor for the people that I serve in my county. So you can tell the governor he's wrong when he's wrong, and still survive it. In this case, I think that it is time for a change for this organization. No one's pulling my strings, no one's telling me how to vote. I respect Eileen Swan for the job she's done, but as everybody in this room knows, I think the Highlands Council needs to go in a different direction.
Thank you to all. Any other comments? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, I will close with the fact that there's a lot of comments tonight that assume there is a gutting of the Highlands Council, Highlands Act. I have not seen that since I've been here in 8-9 months. I believe there may be differences of opinion in how certain things are carried out, but I'm sure if you look at the record of many of the people that have been appointed here, including my own, you'll see a lot of the conservation that has been done under my watch. So to assume that we are going to give up on the things that matter to the Highlands area, northern New Jersey, the regions that and the people that use the resources is insane and asinine. It's not this turned into a venue to yell at the governor, which I think was improper. And I think you shortchanged this council prior to seeing any actions of what we may or may not do with the regional master plan. The act is the act. If the legislature wants to get together and change that, that's up to them. Up here, we've sworn to uphold the act as is written, and I have never seen an attempt to circumvent that. So, I agree with Mr. Walton on several things. I will be voting to change. I have had my discussions with Ms. Swan. I respect Ms. Swan greatly. I'm thankful for the time that I got to serve with her, and I do appreciate it. And at this point in time, I will call a roll call.
Councilmember Alstede.
Just one prepared statement. This is an important resolution that I've given an enormous amount of thought and consideration to, and as a business owner, I'm well aware of the fact that it's never easy to relieve someone from employment. Eileen has served as our executive director for 5 years. That's a long time for someone to serve in an at-will position in government. She's been loyal in serving the council and the residents of New Jersey, and I do, Eileen, sincerely commend you for that service. Put a lot of heart and soul into this. The resolution before us should not and does not take away from Eileen's service and tenure her dedication to task, her consistent efforts during that time. It is now very important, though, for the council to have an executive director who can work effectively with the governor's office and other departments and agencies in the state in order to ensure the proper balance between environmental protection, landowner equity, protection, and landowner rights, as well as reasonable promotion of economic activity within the framework of the Highlands Act. And for this reason, I will be voting in favor of the resolution. I've learned in 30 years of business ownership that change is inevitable, yet it most often always results in new ideas and exciting opportunities. I'm prepared to be a part of this new change for the Highlands Council, and I look forward to enthusiastically embracing the opportunities that lie ahead. And so the vote is a yes on the resolution.
Councilmember Carluccio.
If we're voting for a person who has faithfully carried out the council's work, who has effectively carried out the regional master plan, and if we're voting for that person to be removed, then we're voting to harm the regional master plan, to harm the Highlands. This is just a logical conclusion. I absolutely vote no, and this is a travesty if it passes. It's a travesty for Ms. Swan, but it's also a travesty for the people of New Jersey, for the Highlands, for water, for resources, for now and for future generations. This is a real travesty.
Councilmember Dougherty.
Yes.
Councilmember Dressler.
Absolutely not.
Councilmember Francis.
Yep.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
Councilmember Mangucci.
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchko.
No.
Councilmember Sebetich.
No.
Councilmember Tiefang.
Yes.
Councilmember Visioli.
No.
Councilmember Borden.
Yes.
Councilmember Walton.
Yes.
Chairman Riley.
Yes. At this point, yes, Ms. Swan.
Chairman Riley and members of the Highlands Council, thank you for the opportunity today to address you and the public. In April of 2007, I interviewed for and was hired by the Highlands Water Protection and Planning Council. To be hired to serve an agency charged with protecting the significant resources of the region was indeed an honor, and at the same time, a serious responsibility. This region, part of a larger critical federal region, is unique for its many natural resources, breathtaking beauty, geographic location in the densely populated northeast coast, and above all, for the water resources upon which the state of New Jersey relies and its future depends upon. I would like to thank past and present Highlands Council members who cared about the future and set aside politics to work together to protect irreplaceable resources. I thank the advocates whose mission is to protect resources for a sustainable future. I thank the public for participation in a continuing dialogue, and I understand that there are many viewpoints, but hope that we all understand that we have a responsibility to protect the water resources of this state. I am proud to have served the state with a professional, talented, and hard-working staff. I am proud to have been part of a team that delivered a regional master plan that complied with the law and, if implemented, would safeguard the resources of the region for the benefit of millions of residents. I am proud to have partnered successfully with municipalities across the region to implement that law and plan. I believe it was the honesty and integrity of the people involved and the partnerships forged that has led to the successful early implementation of the plan. I am proud to have served the public as a state worker, and every moment I served, I was conscious of the public trust, and I know that I never betrayed that trust. Above all, as a mother, I am proud to have been part of a mission to protect the waters and natural resources of this great state for our children and their children. I applaud the administration for their commitment to open and transparent government, and know that I have done my part to uphold that commitment. I wish the Council continuing success in protecting the region and living up to their charge. I leave today knowing that I have served the Highlands loyally, consistent with the state's laws, and mindful of the great trust placed in those that are called upon to serve. Thank you.
It's with the deepest regret that I tender my resignation. I'll be submitting it formally. I've been an attorney in the state of New Jersey for some time, dedicated my career to the advancement of environmental protection and proper land use control. I've served this council for 7 years, and it's been quite a pleasure to do so. But I feel that it's be a run against my conscience to retain in my position. So, as you know, the resolution we just adopted provides that Dr. Demonabs can assume the position as acting executive director, and so
You're resigning immediately, I'm sorry.
I will be providing a letter tomorrow.
Thank you.
Here, as far as the new executive director, is there going to be interviews? What is the process that you foresee happening in the future?
I foresee the personnel committee getting together in short order to put together, to formulate that aspect.
As far as advertising,
It's the first time I'm doing
interviewing?
this, so.
Okay.
Moving on. The next item up is public comments. At this point in time, this is open to the public
Yeah, right.
on any issues. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to make one point. In response to Councilman Dressler's question, you indicated that you had problems and concerns with Ms. Swan before you assumed, before you underwent Senate confirmation. As you recall, and I'll go back to the transcript and document this, as you will recall, during your confirmation hearing, I questioned your veracity and I questioned your integrity. You did not disclose to the Senate Judiciary Committee any concern with Ms. Swan or any concern regarding the direction of this council or with respect to the master plan. And tonight you've said exactly the opposite, and that's fundamentally dishonest. And you, sir, have no integrity.
You tried to play that game at the Senate as well, sir. And
Right, there's a transcript.
you often there is.
And
you often make statements and then send a follow-up letter that says, "I retract this portion of what I said."
I didn't retract
Now, if you
anything.
remember,
Don't lie
Senator
again.
Smith asked me if I had dealt with Eileen Swan. I answered him that I did, and he asked me if I ever got my answers, and I said no, I didn't. Yes, sir.
Jerry Kerr, Powhatan again. I'd like to thank the council for the vote. It's change is long overdue. There's probably more change needed, but there may be some light in the tunnel for the dream that I always had for my children. And everyone else that's worked hard on their land, to buy their land, not to listen to all the environmentalists who want to control their land but don't want to spend a nickel to buy any. Thank you very much. I hope this is going to go in the right direction, and there'll be some real fairness to this Highlands. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public wish to be heard? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Summers.
My name is Julia Summers. I'm the Executive Director of New Jersey Highlands Coalition, and I will finish the statement that I started earlier. And I was appealing to the Council to tell you it will be your responsibility to make sure that the Act is followed diligently going forward and not undercut. And you will no longer have Eileen here to help you. You see, I was telling you the truth all along, even if Mr. Druniak thinks that we are hysterical. It will be your turn to step up and show open and transparent leadership, and we appeal to you to do that. Your state needs you. Make sure that the next executive director is fully qualified and experienced to do this task, and is not a political appointment or a reward to someone for loyal service to their party. Eileen, thank you very much indeed. You can be proud of what you have done here.
Thank you, Ms. Summers.
Several of you mentioned that you had some issues in terms of change of direction of this commission and where you want to go, even though it's legislated, it's written down in paper. And I just wonder, because I've not seen it anywhere, I've not heard it anywhere, did at any time you raise those ideas of changes to Eileen to see if she would work with you and understood that these were new directions to take? I haven't heard anything yet tonight that says that she hasn't done everything that the reason why you got rid of her was just to promote development. She's done that all the way through this. Well, obviously, if you haven't discussed this with her, how can she defend herself? As a project manager in the pharmaceutical industry, as a professor at Rutgers University, I know when my students and my personnel need to go in a different direction, we talk about it, and we work through it. And I just question whether, and I'd love to have an answer, but I won't get it, whether you actually had those conversations with her and moved it together as a group, or you're moving together on your own.
More aggressive effort to make the TDR program a functioning TDR program that has real revenue, that can make landowners whole. I've talked about making Justice Hive a priority to compliance, to having receiving areas. I've talked about having, we make a sales pitch to the towns that are in the planning and preservation area. We don't make a sales pitch to the towns that are within the counties of the Highlands Act that could become receiving areas, even though they aren't in the Highlands area. So, speaking only for myself, yes, I have on numerous occasions brought up things that I'd like to see this council do in directions I'd like to see.
You had the opportunity to do that, or just get rid of it.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, or did you just decide to not give her the chance to actually answer your question, or did you just get rid of her?
I don't think it's
I've been asking for 8 years now. Where is the scientific study that put my farm land into the preservation area? And I reminded them that no money has been in place to compensate landowners for the loss of land values. I expressed how prior to the passing of the Highlands Act in 2004, I was offered as much as $12 million for my farmland. And now I'm being told that I will be given $700,000 from the Highlands Council for my land. Township Environmentalist Commission member Chris Teasdale has the nerve to say this is not true. I am in total disbelief and disgusted over the environmentalists who babble on about matters they know nothing about. Teasdale does not know anything about me or my business. Things he and other environments say in print and newspapers are so often wrong, but that does not stop them from trying to justify the taking of my property values. Landowners who have lost 80% of the value of their land value deserve compensation. Soon it will be 9 years, and nothing in place that even begins to justify or justly compensate. Assemblyman John McCune had an article in the Star Ledger on February 29th, where he said the Highlands is the greatest treasure for the protection of cheap water. Cheap! That is the word that is upsetting to me. The cheap water is not costing McCune anything, or the environmentalists anything, or the people at the bottom of the hill anything. But it is costing me and my family everything. My property values and my equity are gone. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, my name is George Casa. I live in Hunterdon County. I own a fly fishing shop in Calfon, and I may be the only person that's ever appeared before you to describe an economic interest in clean water. I think my interest is as economically real as anybody else with land. My financial commitment to my land and my business is essentially my 401k. I have probably 8 jobs attached to the fly fishing business, but I also have a full-time job and another job besides that. I'm working 7 days a week, almost as hard as a farmer. So I would like to say to Mr. Klumpp that you are not the only one who has problems with clean water. I need clean water for my business. You need compensation for what you think is your entitlement. I'm hoping that the council can take both of those positions into view when you hire a new executive director. I don't believe you will be able to find anyone anywhere close to providing the services that Eileen Swan has provided you. Thank you.
We've taken the best of the best. We had the best of the best in charge of this council, of this regional master plan, and now we're in total disarray. Within a couple of months, Mr. Van Abs is going to be retiring. We have totally gutted the upper levels of this staff. I don't know how we're going to get it back together. The Highlands marches on tomorrow, and we're left leaderless. Every accolade that went for Eileen, which she richly deserves, also goes for Tom Borden. And if the public had known that he was going to step down today, they would have spent as much time giving all those accolades to him. Tom, thank you. Thank you for your service, for your intelligence, for your brilliance. Thank you, Tom.
This is not the time for this. This is not an action that the council took.
Wait, because, you know, Tom just announced his resignation. I'd like to say thank you to him, just as we did. And Tracy, to answer your question, I think was from Romeo and Juliet at the end, where they said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." And Tom, you know, same thing that I said for Eileen goes for you. Fantastic job. Thank you for all your help. My 2 years here, so I'm really sad that I'm shocked too.
Thank you all. At this point in time, we have no executive session. Motion to adjourn, please. Second. And a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.